What happens when a black doctor, trying to help people in need, is attacked by a gang of racists, unaware of his past as a combat medic? Let's dive into the story to explore the raw emotions, the unexpected turns, and the ultimate triumph of the human spirit. Dr. Malik Johnson was the type of man who wore his heart on his sleeve. As a dedicated physician, he spent his days working tirelessly at the local hospital in Detroit, saving lives and bringing hope to those who thought it was lost. He had faced hardships in his life, but none of it had ever broken his resolve. A quiet, humble man in his mid-30s, he was known by his colleagues for his warmth, his kindness, and his ability to remain calm under pressure. Malik had always been drawn to helping people, but his desire to make a difference had roots far deeper than his medical career. Before he became a doctor, he had served as a combat medic during his time in the military, where he learned the value of life and the importance of doing whatever it took to save others, no matter the cost. It was one evening, after a long day of work, when his life took an unexpected turn. He had finished his shift and was walking down the street toward his car, exhausted but satisfied with the work he had done. He was looking forward to getting home and unwinding, maybe catching up on his favorite TV show before bed. But as he walked past a dimly lit alley, he heard the unmistakable sound of voices. Angry, hateful voices. "Get out of here, boy. You don't belong here," one of them yelled. Malik's heart skipped a beat. He could see the figures now, a group of young men, probably no older than 20, gathered in the alley, their eyes full of malice. The words stung, but Malik knew better than to engage. He had learned that walking away was often the safest option. But tonight was different. Tonight, the rage of these young men was so loud, so unprovoked, that he felt the urge to stand up for himself. "I'm just trying to get home," Malik said calmly, keeping his distance. His voice was steady, but his mind raced, remembering the things he had seen during his time in combat. His military instincts kicked in, but he kept them hidden beneath the surface. There was no need to escalate the situation, but the gang wasn't interested in listening. "Yeah, well, you don't get to walk through our neighborhood without paying the price," one of them sneered. Before Malik could react, one of the men lunged at him. Instinctively, Malik stepped aside, his hand reaching for his training. In one fluid motion, he brought his elbow down hard on the attacker's shoulder, sending him sprawling to the ground. The others hesitated for just a moment, their confusion visible. But then, like a swarm, they came at him, fists flying. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly have known, was that Malik wasn't just a doctor. He was a combat medic. The skills he had honed in the military were still very much a part of him, buried deep in his muscle memory. As they closed in on him, Malik's body moved with the precision of someone who had survived the chaos of war. He twisted one of the men's arms behind his back, pinning him to the ground. Another swung at him, but Malik ducked, landing a swift blow to the man's abdomen. The fight, which had seemed so threatening moments before, now felt more like a blur. His mind focused entirely on keeping himself safe. But even as he fought back, the anger in his chest grew. These men didn't know him. They didn't know the man who had dedicated his life to saving others, regardless of their race, background, or situation. They didn't know that he had once pulled soldiers off the battlefield, patching them up in the heat of war. They didn't know the sacrifices he had made to be where he was today. With one last push, he sent the remaining attackers running. But as they retreated, one of them pulled out a knife, slashing it toward Malik's side. It was a blow that would have been fatal for anyone else. Malik didn't even think. With his last burst of energy, he caught the blade just in time, his hand instinctively moving to block it, his palm taking the brunt of the cut. He could feel the blood begin to pour, but his mind was still focused on survival. The gang members scattered, their fear overtaking their hatred, and Malik was left standing alone in the street, blood dripping from his hand, his breath heavy. The next few hours passed in a haze. Malik had called the police, but by the time they arrived, the gang was long gone. The injury was deep, but it wasn't life-threatening. Still, the emotional weight of what had just happened began to sink in. As he sat in the emergency room later that night, waiting for the doctors to tend to his wound, Malik's thoughts turned inward. Why, he asked himself. Why did this have to happen? All I've ever done is try to help people. And that was when the first twist of the night came. A nurse walked into the room, a familiar face. It was Maria, an old friend from his time in the military. I heard about what happened, Malik. I'm so sorry, she said, sitting down beside him. But you know, this isn't the first time I've seen something like this. You've always had a target on your back, even when you were just trying to save lives. Malik looked at her, his mind struggling to process the words. I never wanted to be a hero. I just wanted to help. I don't understand. Why does it have to be this way? Maria reached out and took his hand, squeezing it tightly. Because there's always been hate, but that doesn't mean it's your fault. You've fought in wars, you've saved lives, and you've kept going. You're a fighter, Malik. You've always been. But that wasn't the second twist. The second twist came when Malik found out that the leader of the gang that attacked him was someone he had once known. His name was Aaron, and Malik had served with him during his deployment. The anger that burned inside him when he first found out was all-consuming. How could someone who had once fought beside him, someone who had shared the same hardships, turn into someone who hated him simply because of the color of his skin? It made no sense. Malik confronted Aaron, his voice steady but full of disbelief. Why? Why did you do this? We were brothers in arms. Aaron's eyes were full of shame. I don't know, Malik. I've been lost for a long time. I've been angry at the world, at myself. I thought if I could lash out, I could make it all go away. The words hit Malik harder than any punch. It wasn't just anger, it was confusion, it was fear, it was pain. And in that moment, Malik understood something profound. The world wasn't filled with evil people, it was filled with hurt people. And sometimes, the only way to heal the world was to first heal yourself. After that night, Malik didn't just go on to heal his physical wounds. He became an advocate, using his voice and his story to help others see beyond their prejudices. He knew the battle wasn't over, but he also knew that, just like in combat, the hardest part wasn't the fight, it was the healing afterward. As for Aaron, Malik didn't turn his back on him. Instead, he reached out, offering him the same compassion that he had shown in the past. It wasn't easy, but sometimes the greatest triumphs came from the most unexpected places. And in the end, Malik learned that the strength to fight didn't just come from his muscles or his training. It came from his heart, and the belief that no matter how dark the world seemed, there was always a way to bring the light. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.